Good morning, good morning. Let's hear it for LaDiff. Let's hear it for CreativeMornings RVA. Let's hear it for Negative Political Attack Ad.
No.
They work. You heard the intro. I'm Will Ritter. This is Tim O'Toole.
Hello.
There he is. We came here to Richmond 3 years ago after the Romney presidential campaign because we wanted to make political ads and corporate ads. And we came here because, well, we're going to tell you in this presentation, but we wanted to do things differently because there was nobody that was doing what I think that we were going to do. Our topic today is fantasy, or we've amended it to fantasy versus reality given last week. The fantasy is fitting because 2 weeks ago I was on CNN saying that Donald Trump had no path to win the presidency and he would lose by 7 points.
He was wrong.
Yeah, I was dead wrong. But yet people still listen. So we're going to kick it off and talk about who we are and what we do.
Yeah, I mean, quickly, just to recap, we are, as Will said, an advertising agency and do political and corporate. We have a great team here in Richmond. We're just down the street in the Arts District. And I think we'll kick right into, that's us, that's me if you didn't know, and that's Will. Right into the fantasy part of, we're talking a little bit about our business, a little bit about the industry, and kind of some, I guess, best practices that we have encountered over the last 4 years. So first we'll play the reel.
We're going to get him on a run once, we're going to keep him on a run. But don't forget, man, we're going to get him on a run, we're going to go. And we run to a stop, and then we go on, go on. Don't forget, man, today, we're going to win. They can't lick it, and the black out of the law. Fight, we're going to fight.
They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
So it's us. Hey, thank you.
Thank you. That's not meant to be, self-promotion. I think what the point is this is our fantasy. This is what Will and I wanted to build when we had conversations about this 4 years ago. And we'll continue with the fantasy. This is a article that was in the 2014 maybe.
14, yep.
The New York Times featured us. I don't know why. I kind of know why. We had a friend who was a reporter, and she needed a quote, so she called us, and she was surprised that the quote actually was not only good enough to be in the article, but I guess it was good enough to send a photographer down to take a picture of us, doing the standard B-roll, working, looking smart, so they could throw in the paper. So as you can see here, we have what looks like a bustling office and sophistication and whatnot.
And here's the reality. The reality was we were operating out of Tim's apartment on 30th and South Davis, this is his living room that picture was taken in. We gave the quote and they said, well, we're going to send down a photographer. So we had an hour to make basically a kitchen table where we had been running this whole business with one intern and try to make it look somewhat like an agency. So in that picture you saw, if we go back to it.
Yeah, let's diagram this a little bit. So notice Will Ritter is probably cutting some serious deals on the phone.
No one was on the phone.
Actually, the phone wasn't even plugged in, so there was no way to make a call if he wanted to.
Yeah, we didn't have a phone line.
Right behind this wall, well, first of all, the wall, the whiteboard there, that's all nonsense. None of that is actually like anything we were actually writing or brainstorming. And behind that is the bathroom. That's the kitchen. No one actually sat down here. I did nothing, other than my couch, which is right here, and the TV, which was right over here. This was not a workspace. We had to move everything into that one room. I think
we
got
brought
some
like furniture
your
from my
house.
house. I mean, there's a reality there. The real reality is that when Tim and I, either one of us had to go to the bathroom, we'd have to pump the music up so you wouldn't hear it. So
It's glamorous stuff.
to be profiled in the New York Times as an agency that was turning political advertising on its head, it's like sort of. We would really just like to rent some decent office space.
Right. But the bending that reality into this fantasy was necessary. I mean, it got printed. It was hundreds of thousands of copies. Our friends and family actually believed that we had a job, which was great. It's nice to convince people that like what you started and it's not fake. So it was necessary. But let's kind of take it back a little bit. Talk about our story.
Yeah. So the reason for the name and the reason that we got started was we both worked on the Romney campaign. Tim O'Toole here was the Romney campaign knew that they needed somebody to do web videos, do these internet things,
And how he says that is how they meant it. Like they just wanted
like
web videos,
whatever.
they
I
didn't
guess we
care.
got to put. There's a thing called the Facebook. People want to see videos on it. Can we hire some kid to like shoot some stuff and just blah? Here's that kid they
Hey.
hired. He put stuff together with just a camera and his computer at the Romney campaign that would give you goosebumps. It was better than anything we were running on TV, and we had an $80 million TV budget.
I didn't see any of that $80 million
Yeah, you didn't get any of
either.
the $80 million. But being the numbers guy I am, did some quick math and say, wait a minute. So we went on vacation. We didn't have enough cash. We rented a pool house, not this pool house. But
Let's not feel bad for us. The vacation was in Nantucket.
It was
so
fine.
it wasn't like we didn't have any cash, but we were
But
going somewhere nice.
it did only have one bed.
True.
It had one bed that we had to separate with a beautiful wall, a big wall, a pillow wall.
Yeah. We built that wall.
We built it.
Yeah.
And nobody ever cried. But in that pool house, and the reason that we have this stupid name is because I started saying the stuff that you put together is so good, we could sell this. We could run things our own way because both of us had such a belief in the creative. And I know it sounds cliche, but we had been behind the curtain on multiple campaigns, or did 2 Romney campaigns, seeing how the ads get made. And it seemed like the creative thought was probably the last thing that got put on. You'd go through the polling, you'd go through everything, and the last thing is like, oh, how are we going to make it somewhat cute? Let's put something funny in there. We wanted to flip that around and said, what if you just treated this and you thought of the idea first, and then you try to comport that to the politics afterwards. So we, in that pool house, said, let's make a go of it, and we made a go of it.
Yeah. So we took a leap of sorts. We're here with you guys today in this, what I can't believe is actually a furniture store, but it is. I think that's indicative of what Richmond is that even our furniture stores leverage creative and push it to their own spot of what they think can be. So we are here. We've been here since 2013. Mm-hmm. We have, like I say, we have a shop. We've got some great employees that are here, and a great team that we've built. But additionally, we work with great creatives in the community, and I think, and we'll sort of talk about it, but I think that for us, I'm going to forget a bunch of names, but whether it's Cream, I think some folks from Cream are here tonight or today. Madbox, Park Group, In Your Ear, Red Amp. Even our Christmas gifts are made by Jason Lefton over at Big Secret, which are honestly cooler than any videos we make. So it certainly helps our business. Thank you, Jason. But for us, finding Richmond was honestly a blessing, and kind of, when we Moved here, though. We got this.
That was the question. It was why
Like everyone.
Why Richmond? 'Cause
Not you guys, because you live here, but our friends and family. People. I was in D.C. Will was in Boston.
Boston's not a great place to run a Republican consultancy. So
Yeah.
said, well, we got to get out of here. He was in D.C.
And if you guys have been to D.C. before, I don't even know if you've been there, but I don't need to explain why.
Can't do it in D.C. either.
Nope.
Because in D.C., it's to encapsulate it, it's very much who you know, not what you do. And that was the antithesis of what we were trying to do with this company. We didn't want it to just be, well, we've got a bunch of connections, so let's think of an ad. We wanted to make great stuff, and that means putting yourself in a place where you're surrounded by people who are creative, as we see in this room right here. That's what we wanted. I didn't want to be surrounded every day by a bunch of deputy press secretaries on the Hill, because they're not going to help us produce a superior product. But the people in this room already have. So it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, it has been. We've become the tourist board of Richmond for our friends, which we just basically name off these places in no particular order. Just
Okay.
everything.
That's enough.
That's
They
great
get it. Everybody
about
here likes Richmond.
Richmond.
Okay.
No, we're not done yet.
All
Not
right.
done yet. All right, we're done. Right.
Okay.
Now I feel like the elephant insurance sales guy, which is like the most. If anyone does this campaign, that's great. The ads are great, but he looks pathetic about how much he loves Richmond. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're here, but it's the truth. Anyways, but I'll take you back to sort of how we got here, because I think this is for us is, I think we're kind of taking this thought of fantasy versus reality in a couple different ways, and one of those is our reality, which is Richmond, right? Our reality is the city that we live in, where we set up our offices, where we wake up, go to work. But I think that for us, that reality has helped our fantasy. That those, where you walk, what sidewalks, who you see, who you interact with, going to these events, all of these realities shape and help build our fantasy. Our fantasy was, an ad shop that put creative first and really believed in a good story, a good brand, a good spot. So when we, sort of taking you back, when we started, it wasn't just Richmond. We whiteboarded a list of cities that we wanted to move to. Came up with a bunch of names. Some of the standards of Portland and Austin, and Fort Collins, Colorado, San Francisco, New York. We could go anywhere we wanted to go. We knew we weren't going to be in Boston. We knew we weren't going to be in D.C. So we made that list, and Richmond was one of those that we had in common. We had both been here for different reasons, and I don't know, it was just instinctually just kind of liked the place. I'd only spent a couple days here, but there was something about walking around the streets, walking down Broad Street from the Marriott.
Something going on.
There was something here, and you wanted to be a part of it. So we came down here, and we sort of we scouted all these places, and we came down to Richmond. And I think for us, it was, sure it's the capital of Virginia, and it's, a swing state. Politically, it makes sense.
Off your elections
is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But we then started meeting with, as soon as we started putting feelers out here about, the creative community, people just came out of the woodwork. We immediately saw the advantage that we would have over someone that does run an ad shop in Washington, D.C., that we are going to actually be, through the community that we're with, that we're going to be able to create these better ads because we have a team, and we can leverage these folks. And I think for us, on a personal level, as you saw all those pictures I just made you watch, on personal level, it made sense. I mean, I think for us, it was like, well, of course we want to be down here personally. It looks like a great place to live. But now it might even be a better reason why, business-wise, for us to be here. So we're here. Now we get to the fun part.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the industry, about making political advertising, and the reason that we were kind of a disruptive idea was because what you're supposed to do to make political ads is you're supposed to work in politics for 30, 40 years, and at the end of the line, then you get to be the one who decides, what goes on TV. The way that the process that it usually goes by is you start with a poll. You poll a bunch of people, you get what their biggest issues are, you feed that into, some people will write a script and they'll just say, so for instance, if the first thing that came up was everybody cares about education, they'd say, okay, I guess we got to say education 15 times in 30 seconds, and let's get some stock B-roll of some kids raising their hands at a happy teacher, and that should do the trick.
Boom, election won.
Done. You know that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. What frustrated us is that keeps happening, is that the industry is changing because a lot of different aspects, but one of them was Citizens United in 2013. What that did was double the amount of political messages on the air, because now you had unlimited funding for very expensive TV ads. So when it used to be two sides against each other, now you have a pro side, you have a super PAC supporting that side, then you have a super PAC supporting the other side, then their ads. So the airwaves have never been more polluted with our product.
Well, with that.
The airwaves have never been.
It's just served over and over and over again.
Your standard, if we just get the words right, then people will vote for our guy or our gal because the words have been perfect. They said education 10 times in a row, or we put them in, we just put a guy in front of a fireplace with a golden retriever, and I'm sure that will make things happen.
Dogs do work, though. Seriously,
people do like that.
They always do actually work.
But
I think for us, what the conversation we had in the pool house was exactly what we continue to encounter from when we started till now, which is just a total lack of creative, and just if we can just put this ad, whatever it is, on air as many times as we can, that will convince people to vote for our candidate or for our cause. For us, it's the big thing in politics is, we put $2 million behind this ad. That's what makes the headline, right? What's hilarious is no one actually talks about how much money that actually cost to make that ad, or how much time was spent, or how good the creative was. And I'd rather run an ad half as many times and have it be 10 times as better in terms of its creative or in convincing people than just running somebody riding a bald eagle and an American flag and it says vote for me. So
people get scared, they get handcuffed when you're making these ads, because it's kind of like the old adage that everybody thinks they can do advertising. Well, everybody also thinks that they know a thing or two about politics. So when it comes to political advertising, everyone has an idea. Trust me, like our aunts, our moms, everyone has an idea for the killer campaign ad. Why don't you just do that? So it kind of shackles people, because they say, well, we can't just go on gut. Why don't we go by the numbers? We'll go by the poll. We'll just do whatever the poll tells us. Problem is, you get the same old stuff over and over again on TV. And political advertising is different than most advertising, because say you're advertising for Tide, right? Or Range Rovers. You just want to keep throwing it on there, because eventually that consumer will make that decision down the line. You don't care if it's next year. You don't care if it's this quarter. In political advertising, it's very specific. We are trying to get you to take an exact action on an exact day, and nothing else matters.
2 to 4 years.
Yeah, every 2 to 4, right. So 6 months out, we're trying to tell you, hey, in November, you're going to pull up to your local church and remember to fill in the box. That's really tough to land them and get them to do something, which is why you see an explosion of TV ads just before an election, because the science breaks down that that's when people are actually making the decision about who they're going to pull the lever for closer to the election. So that's why it's kind of all backfilled, and it's so constant. But just like the mistake of making the same old ad and running it all the time, pounding the airwaves in the last week, everything kind of gets lost. As you can imagine, just before this election, I'm sure that no one here even watched any TV ads, because it's all just white noise and you can't really take it seriously. So we also kind of changing that paradigm and starting advertising earlier, trying to brand people, trying to define them before the opposition defines them.
Right, and that we'll move into the sad. That is the sad reality of our industry. But I think it also it's provided us. This is our opportunity to disrupt. That we're working in this industry and see how much shit is just fed every single day. That it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us in our fantasy of creating this company, of creating ads that we're proud of, that we do believe and work. But back to the sad stuff, we'll go to 2016.
There we go.
The dumpster fire of dumpster fires.
Right. So if you are built a company based on the fact that if you have good creative and good creative messaging and enough money behind it, that you will win the election, there's 59 million people who just said you're wrong. So that if you look at the top of the ticket, this election, which was Hillary versus Trump, Hillary Clinton, the facts are striking. We have literally never seen, we've never had a test case like this election ever, because usually it's proliferation where both sides kind of build up. They have a similar message, they try to fight each other. Trump was not anywhere even in the ballpark of Hillary when it comes to the number of creative messages. Hillary started early. She had a lot of different creative messages done by really good ad firms. It was really gripping and touching. She had $100 million more than Donald Trump did. So she started earlier. She had better stuff, and she had more money behind it. So the frequency was higher on television. So let's take a look at
Right.
Hillary's best ad.
Despite what political side you may be on, or honestly, even if you think the spot is creative, there was at least effort put into that spot. That they believed that they could convince their audiences or galvanize their supporters to go out and vote. They put value in creative, and then they also put money behind that creative. Whereas Trump made a hat.
This was his best ad.
Yeah, this is awesome. This ad was amazing. So you can imagine for people who pride themselves in putting creative back into politics, this sucks. This is not Wednesday morning was not a fun morning to wake up because, granted, we didn't have an involvement in either campaign, either side. For us, it's our industry. Our industry, in some ways, spoke and said, who gives a shit if your ad is good or not? Something else can win. So it was tough. It's tough for us, and I think that our as I mentioned before, our opportunity, the reality of our industry, provided us an opportunity, provided us our fantasy. But on Wednesday, it kind of shit on it. So that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
So let's get to the positive part.
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of ads that we did when it works, when the fantasy becomes something that can actually happen.
And I think most of the people in this room, are probably everybody, but particularly in industries, you make stuff, you understand the process of getting something past a client or working with a bad product or whatever it may be. We have constraints in an industry, and when you come up with an idea or you come up with something you think is creative, right? It's something that gets you going, something you think is going to work. It's hard sometimes to, when that gets knocked down or when somebody says, I don't know, maybe if we just not a big change, but what if we just change the character to somebody else and have them say something else? And you're like, well, that's not the idea I came up with, but sure, whatever. I think what for us, it's, Wednesday was a tough day, and I think you can sort of throw your hands up in the air and say, well, fuck it, this is not, people didn't want it, so I'm not going to try to serve it to them anymore. I think for us, it's both in our daily life, but also in the larger scope. It's getting hit and continuing on, making sure that the idea or the spot, whatever it may be, stays intact. You don't sort of just say, and I think personally for me, you're really proud of something and someone says, I don't know, you want to be like, well, fuck it, you don't get this idea anymore. I'm taking it home with me. You can deal with your whatever. So, for us, we want to kind of take you through a couple examples, just, again, of us trying to grapple with that on a much smaller level.
Right. Let's take, I think the first one is Jack Berry.
It is.
Yeah, it's going to be a Jack Berry ad. So what happened with the Jack stuff for this mayor's race? We polled. We found out that, the large majority of people in Richmond wanted someone who could fix City Hall, who could fix basic services that the city was providing. Now, your initial reaction is, okay, why don't we make an ad with Jack Berry where he just lists off all of his resume points? He's obviously the most qualified to do this job, but that doesn't really sing off the TV screen. So we came up with this ad.
Yeah, well, and before I show it to you, I think there's the two examples are kind of different in a certain way, in that sometimes that reality is the field that's given to you, right? In this instance, we know what field we can play in, and we have, granted, it's a pretty boring, straightforward subject matter. So you have to, what can we do in that environment to be creative in some sort of way, whether it be the best thing or the worst thing, but here it is.
Jack Berry is not a politician, but he sure can fix things.
You're all set, Margaret.
A proven leader, Jack has the experience to fix City Hall.
Jack knows we've got to fix our basic city services.
Like cutting the grass.
And he'll unite the community to support our schools.
He led the organization that produced the Folk Festival and the RVA logo.
Hey, that credit goes to lots of folks around town.
Jack cares about all of us, and most of all, I I trust him.
So again, we're proud that we were at least, again, argue whether it's great or not. We took or are able to, leverage some pretty boring facts into something that at least we hope is watchable, resonates, hopefully tells a little bit about Jack in an accurate way. And I think that, whether it's ad making in politics or, whatever industry or work you do, it's never sort of like, you're being forced into a little field of play, and it's being okay with that and making the best of that situation. I think the other side is what some of you might be familiar with as clients. I will say that was just a stock photo. The clients we're about to talk about I actually really like. They did give us an opportunity to explore and do whatever we thought was best. But because they gave us that permission, it meant a lot of phone calls trying to convince them of what we wanted to do. And as open as they were, they're coming from a different perspective. This is actually a comptroller's race in Illinois that turned into this massive deal. It turned into sort of a proxy war between the current governor and the sitting Speaker of the House. So we had an opportunity to introduce this woman, Leslie, to the state of Illinois, and we came up with what we thought was this great idea. She on our first introductory phone call, she said, "I'm really great at baking chocolate chip cookies. Like everybody in my neighborhood likes these chocolate chip cookies that I make." So we came up with the idea, which was the state of Illinois hadn't passed a budget. They were at a standstill. And the idea was Leslie would actually offer to bake every single state legislator a batch of cookies if they would pass a budget. So basically,
we were trying. The point was she was a Republican running in a Democrat state. We had to make the campaign about something other than just Democrat versus Republican because we wouldn't win that. So we were latching onto this. So we were so committed to this idea. I actually crunched the numbers of what it would take supply-wise to do the baking and deliver to all these legislators. That's how committed we were to the idea.
Right. We were going to have a website. Let this be the campaign, and let this kind of shame all these politicians, Republicans and Democrats, into passing a budget and doing their job essentially. They didn't quite go with it.
They hated it.
They did, yeah.
Hated it.
They didn't like it. They didn't tell us they hated it because they're good clients. They said, I don't know, and they try to come back to it, and they try to. But we probably had 4 different hour-long phone calls with them, and honestly, what they really were asking for was a normal ad. They said they didn't want a normal ad, but they really wanted a direct-to-camera of Leslie. So instead of throwing up our hands, instead of giving them what they want, and they would have been fine with that, I think there was still some pride on the line for us, which is we always want to give them one better than what they asked for. So we kind of just tinkered with their idea and came up with this.
Meet Leslie Munger, businesswoman, outsider. When the politicians down in Springfield couldn't pass a budget, she told them no budget, no pay.
Yep, that's right.
As a mom, she knows a thing or two about saying no.
Tell me about it.
A campaign that puts the politicians in line with the rest of us.
They're hurting Illinois, so why should they get paid?
All right, putting the politicians in line. No budget.
No pay.
Go, Leslie.
I'm Leslie Munger, and I'm running for comptroller because it's time we brought some common sense to Springfield.
No budget, no pay. Leslie Munger.
I would like to give a shout out to Madbox. They were our partners with that. We all flew out to Chicago and did that, so it was great working with them. But this is in Illinois. I'm actually originally from St. Louis. My mom saw this ad because we were airing in the St. Louis market, and actually her friends came up to her and said, "Have you seen this great ad for this woman running for some office I've never heard of?" And my mom said, "No, that's actually my son did that." And again, now twice my mom has proof that I actually have a job. Mm-hmm. So she's still on the fence. Thanksgiving's going to be difficult with the whole Trump-Hillary thing, but we're going to get through it, and it's going to be fine.
Cool.
So I think, I think for it will kind of both sort of bring this home in different ways. For me, it's looking at individual successes, right? Yeah, this is like I said, this is a pretty shitty political season for us. We had Rubio, he lost, and then we woke up on Wednesday with what we currently have. And I think that was hard for us to deal with on just a professional industry level, and that we put pride in that ads can win and ads can be effective. And we got a dose of reality. But I think that, in these particular cases, particularly, these, we're really proud of what we did. And, despite, it's not going to get the coverage. No one's going to be talking about this in terms of presidential we were still successful in pushing something that we were proud of. And despite the sort of reality of our client or reality of the facts and figures, we were able to like keep alive the fantasy, keep alive the reason why we started to do this.
Yeah, it comes down to just remembering the fantasy and remembering why you're doing it, and not just succumbing to, well, maybe nothing matters. And I
Which
think
it felt like on Wednesday.
it kind of felt like, but I think that the important, looking as somebody who looks at polls a lot, I'm looking around this room and I can tell that we have a lot of other people who are somewhat disappointed on Wednesday morning. But the thing to remember is that 49% of the United States they aren't surprised, they aren't shocked, and they're happy because the person they voted for got it. So things move on, the world keeps spinning, but you got to keep going back to that fantasy, keep focusing on the creative, and not get dismayed, because you got to keep walking even if 59 million people tell you that you're wrong.
So everybody hang in there. It's going to be okay.
All right.
Trump's not going to deport the guinea pigs, the cats, or the dogs. So we're good.
All right.
Thank you guys very much for having us. Thank you to Creative Mornings. Thank you to Live Diff.